Hello and welcome to Visionaries Uncensored. Honest conversations with leading entrepreneurs who've set their sight on a vision and are out in the world of action to achieve them. Today's episode is really special, for today the seeker has become the sought after. I am extremely happy to introduce Rohan Mehta, founder of VNR Advisory, a specialized firm working with entrepreneurs. And I am also extremely happy to inform our audience that Rohan is the original host of this show. Um, Rohan found his calling in recruiting and has been at it for the last 2 decades. Now, as he helms VNR Advisory from a position of strength to a position of wisdom, we find Rohan and his eclectic team enabling their clients to grow and make significant and meaningful contributions to India's growth ecosystem. In this conversation, we will delve upon major influences in Rohan Mehta's life, your multifaceted professional journey. And on that note, Rohan, welcome to your show.
Thank you so much.
I want to start by first asking you about uh, your childhood leading up to your life as a young adult, and how did recruiting happen to you?
So, I mean, my childhood was a fairly regular childhood. I grew up first part of my life with my grandparents. Spent a lot of time with people who were are a lot more intelligent than I am, and which led to this constant yearning to learn more. And books were always available in our household. There was an absolute plethora of range of topics on which my grandparents read books, and we had a beautifully stacked library as well. On a typical day, my grandfather would read about 5 newspapers and 2 magazines on a daily basis. And that kind of inculcated a need to read, so to speak. And books were my first set of friends in school also. I was probably the only one student in my school, even when we moved to Noida when I was in class 8th. I had 2 library passes. The librarian understood my passion to read, and unlike other students who had only 1 library pass, I had 2. So I could actually take out 2 books a week to read, and so that is what was my childhood like. Um, did a couple of interesting things before reaching recruitment. Spent a lot of time in ad filmmaking, spent time in rural marketing, spent time in public relations. And luckily for me, I guess, one of my friends was engaged to a girl who knew Vipul, and that led to a chance introduction, and then that led to a very interesting conversation with Vipul. Anybody who knows Vipul, no conversation with Vipul is not interesting. And then we started talking about what technology industry is all about, how there's a need to create something new for the tech sector in terms of recruitment, etc., etc., etc. And this is like 2005, July, August, and then I ended up joining Vipul's company Elixir in September 2005, and I've been in, barring a short stint as an entrepreneur, I've been doing recruiting ever since.
You mentioned that you did a few things in
Yeah.
media and advertising before Elixir, before recruiting happened to
Yes.
you. So, would it be fair to say that media's loss is recruiting's gain?
I don't think media lost a lot. Interestingly, in media itself also. So I started working right after my school. So spent about 4 years, 2007, 97 to 2001, working with 2 amazing names in the on the production side. And one of the key things I did for them was casting, and which was nothing more than recruiting for a shoot. right? So you would get a script, you would get a production sort of document, and then from that you need to decide what kind of person would work for that particular shoot, or what kind of people you needed for a particular shoot, and then source those people from different sources, screen them, interview them, and get them for the shoot. Which is what I do now for companies, right? So I think in a very strange way, it prepared me for my recruiting journey. Also, I keep hearing these fancy keywords of learning and unlearning and relearning. I genuinely don't believe in unlearning. I think anything you do gives you an experience which you can tap into to make you better at your current job.
Right.
Every experience might not kind of absolutely overlap, but for most parts, I think any experience adds value.
So that's very interesting, Rohan, and I'm tempted to ask you this: that when you were doing casting for projects, vis-a-vis doing recruiting now, there are some things which are in parallel. So other than the technical fitment or the repertoire
Yeah.
of the artist, there's also this fitment into the project, the culture, the team,
Absolutely.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
What was that like? This is extremely interesting to hear. So can you just?
So I don't think casting is any different from recruitment. So say you're shooting for an ad film, and I must say this: I'm no longer an expert. I haven't done casting since 2001. So a lot of this could be outdated knowledge, but from what I remember, when we were doing, say we were asked to do casting for a particular product, maybe say a shampoo. Okay, there are certain prerequisites that would go with that brand. Say the girl needed to look a certain part. The imagery of the brand of the product would need to kind of align with the way the artist looked. A lot of those things are true for recruitment also. Each company, especially when they're hiring top level talent, they want that talent to align with their culture, their values, their ethos, which is exactly the same when you're doing casting. So, from that perspective, I don't think casting and recruitment are very different. In both contexts, we kind of try to figure out the right fitment and align it with the ethos of the brand or the company. And I think in many ways that really helped me be a better recruiter, because now when I look at or when I try to source candidates, I'm not aligning that candidate with just the JD, but I align the candidate with the hiring manager, with the company, with the direction the company wants to take. And I think that's the real job of a good executive recruiter. So, yeah.
So so then Elixir was your first recruiting
Yes.
career opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know this. I thought you had come to Elixir after working for someone or some
No,
company.
so Elixir was my first recruitment opportunity. I learned whatever I know of recruitment, about recruitment, was all at Elixir. In fact, I remember this really funny incident where I think it was my first week itself, and I was aligned with these two lovely, super smart young recruiters, who's like, "I'll show you how to post jobs," and I'm like, I've grown up making jobs. They said, we'll teach you how to post ads. And I'm like, I've spent the last 6 years of my life making ads with like two of the biggest names. What kind of ad making can these little girls show me? And then I realized that they're talking about, posting ads on Naukri and Monster and how it is different. So it was a very interesting experience on kind of taking a lot of learning from making an ad film for a product, and using a lot of that learning into making an ad on Naukri. I think one of the things that I do whenever I post an ad on Naukri is I write a little bit about the client on the thing before I write about the responsibilities. I think a smart candidate wants to know the whole story, rather than just the KRAs of a job. That I think helped me a lot to get an edge over a lot of people who join Elixir without the sort of ad film experience or whatever. In fact, there were quite a few of us who came from different backgrounds in Elixir.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
yourself being one.
I just came after my MBA.
Okay.
And then because and I thought this was an HR job. This was a recruiting job. That recruiting was a part of HR. Little did I realize that it's more about marketing, and there was a lot of what now I understand is
That's a can of
advertising. And
worms. That's a
yeah,
can of
that's a kind
worms.
of,
I think recruitment is recruitment.
yeah.
It's not
It's a
marketing. It's
function
not
in
sales.
itself.
It's not HR. I think recruitment is a very unique, independent function, and I think any company which does a lot of hiring should have it as a separate tower in itself. Should not align it to human resources.
Yeah, but so I'm a hospitality graduate.
Yeah.
And I feel, about a decade into my career, I started feeling, I realized the value of uh, hospitality in anyone's life,
Yes.
because the way that you work with people, the way that you eat with them, the
Yeah.
way your mannerisms are, they play a very, very important role. And likewise, now after about 2 decades of experience, I feel recruiting is such a value. Recruiting as a skill, as a craft, is such a value, that you kind of imbibe over time.
Yeah.
Because it's a function in itself. It's a craft in itself.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
can't be. And that kind of brings me to this next inquiry. I know for a fact that after Elixir, you worked with Elixir for quite some time.
7
And
years.
7 years. And then you moved on to, and then your career shaped into a mix of consulting and corporate roles. And I'll ask you about them. But my ultimate question,
Yeah.
which I'd like you to, kind of address after telling us about the brands
Yeah.
that you've worked with, the places that you've been to, what, at the end of the day, today, what makes recruiting such an endearing activity for you?
So let me answer that first, and I'm. So this is not my. I'm stealing some of these words from a movie, and I'm sorry I've forgotten the name of the movie, so I can't quote. Give them the benefit of the quote, but to me, what I love most about recruiting is every now and then you get this opportunity to absolutely beautifully completely change somebody's life for the better. You get this opportunity, and it doesn't happen too often, but you get this opportunity to kind of take a person who is like I feel was happening with me. I was meandering through life. I had not reached the right place, the right career, and somebody took it, and like for me, Vipul took me and kind of put it on the right direction. That's what I love about recruiting. It's every now and then you get this opportunity to help shape somebody's life for the better.
That's
And I
very
think that's the greatest thing one can do.
Okay. And can you tell us in a snapshot what happened after Elixir?
Yes, so left Elixir, joined ABC Consultants, was one of the tower leads for a while. Then there was this short span where I thought I would try something other than recruiting. Got into snack food manufacturing, extruded snacks and popcorns and things like that. Did that for a while. It was a lot of fun, but realized I love recruiting more than anything else, and that's the only thing I am really good at. So handed that business off to my sister. Was one of the early HR people at Jio. Worked with Reliance for a bit. Got an opportunity to then move out of the country. Worked with international conglomerate based out of Nigeria. Head their recruitment globally. So basically was hiring for them around China, Dubai, Ghana, Nigeria, and UK. Fun experience because we were working across 4 different industry segments. Then a private equity advisory firm that was setting up its unit in India wanted to set up a specialized board search practice. So they sought me out. They got me down to India. Then, of course, the big C, COVID happened. During that time, Vipul and I got into a conversation where we were like, there is this India is growing a lot. A lot of these startups are appearing. A lot of entrepreneurs are really pushing themselves to create something new. There are a lot of second generation, third generation entrepreneurs who are redefining, different sectors in India. But there aren't any agencies that are supporting them and helping them hire the right talent. And I realized that when I was setting up my own firm also, that you go to any agency and agencies are like, hey, how big is your company? Nobody wants to take a risk of working with a startup or an entrepreneur-run company. Everybody wants to work with the Unilevers and the Ponds of the world and the PNGs of the world. Or in technology, the Accentures and IBMs of the world. While those are great companies, what Vipul and I decided that, I think it's time where we kind of used our experiences as having been entrepreneurs ourselves and having being recruiters ourselves, create a unique value proposition for entrepreneur-run companies, or what are popularly now called family-run businesses or family-owned business (FOBs), and that's what led to then creation of VNR.
That's amazing. And I'd kind of I just want to kind of also pull in this thought here, or rather this inquiry that I have. You mentioned that you were having these discussions with Vipul,
Yeah.
and you identified maybe what I would call is a focus area, which was driven by the fact that nobody, or there are very few spaces that kind of, or organizations that work with a certain set of businesses. However, I understand that entrepreneurs are a major contribution to the country's
Yeah.
economy, our GDP. They are, I think, also one of the most important employers and yet they don't receive that kind of focused attention. So, did economics in its macro and micro form also play a role in terms of you making this decision about what the focus areas of VNR would be?
I think yes, understanding of the macroeconomic scenario of the country, the changing dynamics of the world definitely helped a lot. And I give you, I mean, there are these amazing stats that are available for people to look at if one were to follow trends. If memory serves right, to 2023-24, 74% of India's GDP is from family-owned businesses. And even if you remove like the top 10% of it, you remove the Ambanis, the Adanis, and the Godrej's, there is still a very large chunk of India's GDP that comes from family-owned businesses, which are anything from about 500 crores to about 20,000 odd crores a year revenue. And these are beautiful companies that work in super specialized spaces, not necessarily B2C, and which is why most of the world doesn't know them. But these are extremely important, critical companies that manufacture very critical things for the economy in totality. So yeah, I mean, understanding of economics did help a lot, because I knew this is a good direction to get into, and yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, and so how do you see the coming decade for these family-owned businesses, especially let's say someone who's a second or a third generation entrepreneur? We are looking at a tidal shift
Yeah.
in terms of the mindsets, the cultures, the way that generations that are about 15, 16 right now would
Yeah.
be stepping into, their family owned businesses, maybe at the cusp of 7 years, 10 years from now, etc. So I just want to understand, what do you, if I may use the word predict,
Yeah.
or how do you kind of visualize what family owned businesses would mean to the country and the talent landscape?
So I'll tell you what. In the next, say, 3 years' time, I'm going to predict India's economy's GDP about 82-84% would come from family-owned businesses. But that being said, there is an inherent challenge with family-owned businesses, and only the ones which have understood that challenge and created a system around it have been able to succeed. Um, the so the challenge with family-owned businesses, it started by an individual who has this amazing vision, and you look at any family-owned business, is always it's always an idea at the right time at the right place, which has which is commercially viable and becomes a company, which becomes a group of companies. Mr. Sunil Bharti Mittal had this amazing idea of and he was selling phone
Beetle
devices. He was selling Beetle devices, and I think he had the beautiful vision of thinking that, hey, you know what, mobile or mobility is going to be an amazing thing, and he took loans. He kind of created this amazing thing which now known as Airtel. When I was working with Reliance, I was a couple of few people who were lucky enough to get on a conversation with Mr. Ambani, where he was talking about why he called the company Jio, and he put a mirror in front of it, and it reads oil, and imagine this person had the wisdom and the vision to say that data is going to be the oil of the next 20 years. And data is the oil of the next 20 years. In fact, I predict wars will be fought for data now, not for oil anymore.
Yeah.
So what happens with entrepreneur-run companies is people with this amazing vision and wisdom, they start something. Their second generation has seen that growth, has seen that hard work that has been put in. They also kind of add to the company. Unfortunately, more often than not, the third generation that is born in wealth, the golden spoon generation, they sometimes are disconnected from the realities of life. They are sometimes disconnected from what makes their company special. And sometimes they like to imbibe the MNC culture into their organizations, bring in all the trappings of a multinational corporation, which does not work all the time. Which is why almost 80% of the family-owned businesses die in the third generation. So my advice to all my second, third generation entrepreneur clients is keep doing regular self-assessment. Figure out, what is the skill gap that is there between you and your predecessor. Find somebody who adds value or who supplements those skill gaps. And then the company can run well together.
So, interesting point here, and I want to kind of, so I do want to kind of also, inform our audience that VNR works mostly or completely on senior level mandates at a. You want to talk about your portfolio before I kind of get into, the details of that or aspects of that.
So we are a retained search firm. We are not a leadership hiring firm. We are not a mid-level hiring firm. We are not an entry-level hiring firm. We are a retained search firm. We are very happy to engage with our clients and solve whatever people-related issues they have. If there is the need for them to hire a super specialized mid-level person, we're very happy to do it for them. They need a couple of junior people to help them grow, we're very happy to do it for them. But as long as we work in the so what we like to do is we like to work like an extension of our clients and not like an extra vendor that is just pushing in resumes. Wherever is it that we feel there is confidence in our service, we're very happy to work. And it could be something as simple as hiring a front office or something as complicated as hiring a CEO.
And I also understand that while you work with industries, but the focus area of the company remains to be family-owned businesses. They could come from any kind of an industry or, any kind of a sector. Is that?
Absolutely. In fact, we are as a firm industry agnostic. But that being said, we have people in the organization who specialize in a set of industries.
Awesome.
Just to make them better at assessing people for those particular industries.
Right. I'd like to now dive into the ecosystem of your clients and candidates, largely the talent ecosystem as you see it from your perspective. And 2-3 thoughts combine in my head to bring my next inquiry to you. Working with family-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, family-owned businesses, stroke entrepreneurs, stroke second generation, or even second and third generation folks, businesses. There's a certain kind of a feel, if I may so call it, or an understanding of the market that that there is a certain kind of a culture that these companies have. And while I have also noticed that entrepreneur driven organizations, FOBs, can be extremely professional, extremely
Absolutely, yeah.
bang on target with their with how they operate, and vice versa in terms of corporates also, large corporates also. But what do your conversations look like with your clients? At what levels do you talk to them about what the talent is looking like? What do they need to do to be ready for absorbing the professional senior level folks who are out there in the market? Just tell us a little about that.
Sure. So, one caveat, we make sure as much as possible for us to ensure we only work with nice people. I think it's very important because we as an organization do not want to place people where they would not enjoy working. We're very lucky. In fact, I love all my clients. They are gorgeous people with passion, with intellect, with drive to create something new. But that being said, what I always tell, or what we as a company always tell our clients is to be super real about what the company is all about. And it's a function of a lot of different things. All companies. So let me take a step back. Sorry. Let me take a step back. And what ends up happening is we all, especially this younger generation, has this very American corporate view because of the television serials and different things. I mean, look at Suits and you would think every lawyer has this massive 20 feet by 20 feet office with, like, I don't know which law firm has that massive an office for every partner. I haven't seen many. I don't know about you. Sorry, my legs and my mic are not aligning well today. But that being said, what we do is we tell our clients to be super real on what is it that they offer and what is it that they can't offer. And then we try and find the person who wants what they're offering rather than pushing somebody who might want that fancy 40 feet by 40 feet office. And if my client is doesn't believe in spending that kind of crazy amount of money in that office space, I don't. I mean, like, VNR is a fully remote work culture because I rather spend that money on extra salaries rather than in a fancy office. And so that's one of the key things. The other one is it's very, very important for the entrepreneur or the driver of the organization. It could be the head of the family or whoever is the person who's driving the company, to be honest about what is it that they expect this person to do. And then we help them kind of create that into a structured document. And then from the document comes out the job description. From that, we create a competency map. From there comes out the interviews techniques. And then the whole thing kind of helps them find the right person for their organization in the current context.
Right. So two follow-up questions here. One, you mentioned that you like to work with, or you only work with, nice people.
Yes.
How do you define nice?
Good question. So for me, nice are people who are honest about who they are. I am not the biggest fan of working with people who would pretend to be nice while have a very toxic work environment.
Okay.
That being said, if you're working directly with an entrepreneur, there'll always be that little bit of extra pressure on you. As they say, closer you are to the sun, the higher there will be the heat. And every entrepreneur, in my mind, is a solid sun. Because this person is burning with energy, this person is burning with passion, this person wants to make something brilliant. This person he wakes up every morning to do that amazing thing. Unless you're ready to face that heat on a day-on-day basis, you're not ready to work for a family or business then. And it's a different sort of skill set to manage an entrepreneur than managing a boss in an MNC culture.
That's so interesting. My second question here was, um, what what kind of conversations kickstart an engagement? What does VNR want to know before they kind of embark on an assignment, and how much do you want to understand? Because as I understand, the focus area being something,
Yeah.
and you're like you mentioned, your VNR is industry agnostic. So obviously, there's a lot of knowledge pouring into the system, and it needs to be kind of filtered or segregated, structured, so that we can, so that you can be more
Yeah.
meaningful in your conversations. Uh, what goes into that?
Sure. So internally, so while we are as a firm industry agnostic, there are people in the organization that specialize in a set of overlapping industries.
Acha.
So what ends up happening is whenever there is information, and this could be something as simple as a potential headwind for an industry because of some government regulations, or a possible tailwind scenario because of a new policy. We keep collecting such information and keep giving it to the person who leads engagement for those set of industries, who in turn kind of keeps converting, keeps updating it into what we call as the industry segment doc, which is something that educates all of us in those industry segments.
Okay. I want to talk about diving a little more deeper
Yeah.
in this. I want to talk about how do you enable a client's talent strategy and the operations part. These are two parts, two very important parts of the same activity.
So we are a unique firm in that context because a typical firm would just take in whatever position comes their way and start working on it. What we do is we go back to our client and for most parts ask them why they want to hire that person, which sets the conversation in a very different direction, and the actual reason for hiring, which then leads to creation of at times a different job description altogether from what the person thought they wanted. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to do some interesting work with promoter-run companies. Is a lot of times promoters, while they are really great at what they're doing, um, they have multiple stimuluses which are kind of impacting them, and there is that need to grow which is there in their organization. Um, uh, a few times we tell our clients to kind of calm down, slow down their entire hiring process, because we also believe that if a company hires too many senior people, either the culture will be lost or there's a very high chance this would not lead to success. So what we do is we first consult our client on understanding why they want to hire that person, what is the impact they want to bring by hiring that particular person, and then take that document into convert that into a job description, and then based on that job description we try to screen people who would be able to achieve what the client wants to achieve, and then present those few people to the client.
Uh, Personal experience, and maybe I don't. My own personal experience has been that I now believe that interviews are not really a very effective way of judging talent or judging someone, or maybe I just suck at taking interviews. But I think it's an art.
Yeah.
To be able to have a conversation with someone and be able to assess them in, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour is what usually I would believe a conversation goes for. And coming from the fact that a lot of these FOBs, or maybe sometimes I've overheard you talking to a client and telling them, advising them on what how a person needs to be screened, what are the aspects that, and the world of information is also evolving rapidly. I think asking personal details or some sort of questions starts reflecting on the borders of professionalism and unprofessionalism. So how do you work with clients on, let's say, enabling them to be able to select the right guy?
So I think taking an interview is part science, part art, and which is something that we use at VNR and we consult our clients to also use. I think it's critically important, and you're very right. I think because of a lot of availability of information, a lot of people understand how to project themselves right, how to use the right keywords to say the right
Correct.
things, to sound relevant for a particular role. That being said, if one focus, so what we like to typically do with our clients is for any role, we like to break the requirement into three sets of what we call competencies. And competency is nothing but an ability to do something into the years of experience in that particular function. Okay, so suppose I'm looking for, I mean, a classic case is I'm looking for a CFO. Great. What do you want the CFO to achieve? Are you looking at somebody to focus only on compliance, or is it MIS, or is it fundraising? Is it equity? What is it that you want the CFO to do? What is going to be the top three things that you want to achieve via the CFO? If it is a 20% increase in profitability, then that is the top most important KPI or impact area that the person will have on the company. What is the competence you need to be able to achieve that? We design those functional, apologies, behavioral, and leadership. And we assess people based on those competencies. We train, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, I spent time training a couple of potential, well, not potential clients, but a couple of people from a group called Entrepreneurs Organization, training them on how they should interview senior people. And and one would say classic wisdom is I'm probably doing something which will negatively impact my business, because I should not be teaching my clients how to do the interviews right, because they should come to me. But I honestly believe if my clients can interview right, my job will become easier.
Right. And I was reading up or listening to a podcast. I think it was a design session at Apple. I think a year back.
Yeah.
And they had a small section where they asked what is quality, and one of the key designers at Apple answered it by saying that when you feel that looked at someone's looked at you and they've kept you in their thoughts, that is when quality comes out. And I think that this is a value add of what you just mentioned. So I do want to kind of also pivot on the candidates that you are assessing, since these are very senior level people or CXO level people. There's obviously again a lot of information that is flowing in, knowledge that is flowing in, and it requires a certain ability to kind of assess, their fitment with the organization, with the clients, and it's also a reverse process. Yeah. You mentioned that while at Elixir, when you were writing ads, you would talk about the companies, before you actually spoke about the job per se. So tell us a little about this method of engaging with this level of candidates. Typically, how much time does it take to kind of bring them over to the side to say okay, and what is the kind of, again, the value add that you're putting at the client end? How do you kind of direct that to the candidates as well?
So I think in my experience, what works best is once you are prepared. And I've always seen, if in a 5-minute conversation I can add value to either my client and my candidate, they always pick up my calls. If I have not been able to add value, and this could be by understanding the ecosystem, this could be understanding the unique keywords that they use, this could be understanding the uniqueness of that industry itself.
Yeah.
And if I'm just one of the 500 recruiters who are probably calling that CXO level person and starts a conversation, hey, I have a job for you, the salary is X, the hours are Y, the person is Z, I don't think, I mean, I'm just one of the few 100,000 recruiters that are calling people every day. I think for us at VNR, and what we always do is our first knock on the door is usually via an email. It's a super polite email with sort of a brief on the client, with a little bit on what makes them different from the other people in their space, and a couple of lines on the role, what I like to call as the hook. So, it needs to have enough meat for the person to be interested, and yet not so much that the person has already got all the information. So there has to be, like a good Agatha Christie novel. Like you're waiting to flip to the next page. It has to be like that. And which is then what leads to what we like to call as an exploratory conversation. That's typically a 30-minute video conversation that we have with the executive, which sort of ranges around who we are, it ranges around who our client is, ranges around what the client wants to look at them for. Again, at this stage, we don't share typically specifics. We don't share out the name of the client. We typically don't share the exact nomenclature of the role. It's still a fairly sort of high level conversation where we are trying to do a basic, what we like to call as a CTQ match, critical to quality match, where is the person meeting our basic benchmarks of the three sets of competencies or not.
Yeah.
If the candidate also is still interested, if we feel the candidate is the right person to move forward, we do another video conversation, which typically ranges from about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Sometimes we break it down to 30-minute conversations also if the executive is super busy, where we first spend time talking about the client, talking about the role, and what is the USP of both the client and the role, and how will this role add value to the candidate. And then this is about 15 minutes of the conversation. And the next 30 minutes, we dive deep, assessing the candidate on every aspect of the job, and how the candidate will be able to add value, and how has this candidate done the things that the client wants them to do already in the past. And based on that, we create a final document. It is not like a super complicated 10-page journal with psychometric assessments and a lot of, as they say in Nigeria, a lot of grammar. It is a very sort of neat and clean set of reasons why we feel this is a great candidate for that particular role, for that particular client. And it could be something as simple as, hey, you want this person to do ABCD. This person has done ABCD in this company and the previous company and the previous company. Or it could be like a slightly more complicated 4 sets of paragraphs also. But again, the idea is to align the candidate's expectation, the client's expectation, and the document and the candidate themselves on the same page in such a way that nobody's time is wasted.
My recruiting career, or my career as a corporate professional, or as a professional, is largely divided into 2 parts, where I think 40% of which was consulting,
Yeah.
and the remaining 60% has been corporate recruiting.
Yeah.
So in corporates, I have had the experience that once you recruit a candidate, from the time that the offer letter goes till the time, and even after the person's joining, for a specific period of time, the recruiter is the go-to person, mostly for the candidate. But that's on the corporate side.
Yeah.
I want to know from you, as VNR, what kind of hand-holding do you do with a candidate, especially at the senior level? Because I think that is a much more, it's a leap of faith for anyone who's taking up a new job, but here the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
The compensation is higher, the impact of the role is higher, the roles after taste in the career trajectory of the candidate is very higher, is very critical.
Absolutely.
So what happens at that? What do you want to tell us about that?
So, obviously, we do our best to make sure it's a beautifully aligned marriage, so to speak, and then come the 3 months of vanvas, so right after the interview, before the person joins. And a lot of magic can happen in these 3 months, which can go sideways, good ways, bad ways, in all sorts of new dimensions it can go into. But what we like to do typically is we work with our clients and create a pre-boarding, onboarding plan with them that we also partner with them. So from our side, what we typically like to do is we stay in touch with the candidate. We keep talking to the candidate, and not in a transactional way where we like, hey, have you done step A, have you done step B, but more like, hey, do you need any help? Is there anything that we can help you with? Sometimes it is sending pictures of apartment complexes in other cities where they're relocating to. Sometimes it's sending them a list of brokers. Sometimes it's introducing to the principals of certain schools in that area. And we do all that very, very happily. I mean, this is definitely not a part of our not even value added service, but we're very happy to do it because, again, we feel we are a part of our clients' teams to do that. What we also do is we typically work with our clients and create a pre-boarding program with them, where, especially for senior levels, what we do is we create a SPOC, a POC for the candidate to reach out to for any challenges, which I keep telling all my clients, it should ideally be the boss's EA or secretary.
All right.
Somebody who has, and typically these people have a lot of patience, and they're very detailed people, detail-oriented people. So they are the right people who kind of are a conduit between the candidate and the company. Otherwise, what ends up happening is there are too many other stakeholders one gets involved in. So you go to the admin for relocation, you go to somebody else for something else, somebody else for something else, and usually the ball gets dropped somewhere, which ends up with everyone having a, let's just say, not the right taste in their mouths. What we also do is we tell all our clients to assign a buddy. A buddy typically should be somebody who is at the same level as the person who's joining in, if possible, and somebody who believes in the company. Somebody who will happily teach this new person the culture of the organization. Sometimes it's the hiring manager themselves, especially when it is like a CEO kind of a position. But it helps to have that one extra person on there. What we also do is we tell our clients to create a formal document on the onboarding process. The person joins. Typical ends up happening is the paraphernalia is not ready, the office is not ready. We get involved to make sure all that is sorted before the person joins, so that day one the person gets the impact. Hey, I'm joining a structured professional organization, and the person is met with a certain set of documents that are already prepared for him or her. There is a plan in place, which is a couple of meetings with the right people, meetings with the stakeholders. If it is a production company, then going to the plant. That visit should be organized. If it is a multi-location thing, then those multiple meetings need to be organized. If it is a transnational company, then those visas, the documents, tickets, everything needs to be organized before the person joins in. While I know a lot of people would say conventional wisdom says that you wait for the person to join, but that's where we come in. We make sure the person joins in, and we push our clients to make sure that everything is ready before the person joins.
So I have a follow-through thought here, which I just want to. So obviously, this endeavor to be able to make this entire effort into a successful result, also coupled with the fact that we are in the services business. And in the services business, people are usually expected to go just beyond the call of duty or beyond the call of duty.
Especially in India.
Especially in India. Yeah, you want the dhania free with...
You always want dhania free with your
especially in North India, I guess. But then, Rohan, where does VNR draw the line in terms of, saying that, okay, we've got it till here, इसके आगे हमारा role नहीं है, and or what are the things that you think, or do you kind of have you ascertained that we are not going to do this for a client? So what is it that you...
So honestly, I'm if a client wants, I'm happy to take over all of it for the client, and my team hates me for it, but yeah, I mean, there have been cases where we've gone for an office visit for the client to select the right office for the new person who's joining in. We've picked up furniture also. I mean, we should not be doing all that, but we're happy to do it if it is a critical hire, and if our value add can impact that person's happiness. We're very happy to do all that. Honestly, we're very happy to go the extra mile and a half, go to the next country if required to keep our client and our candidates happy. However, before the conversation starts and before the interview process starts, we typically are super clear on with our clients on, hey, I will do whatever best I can, but this is from this point, you will have to take ownership. Once the candidate joins, I will always be, in fact, I will stay in touch, but I will start taking a backseat because if the candidate sees too much of me, the candidate will find excuses to complain.
Right.
And then that unnecessarily kind of leads down a rabbit hole that we don't want to go down on.
Right. One of the things that I observe, or comes out of my experiences, is the fact that other than the lack of opportunities, there is also a very, very strong skill gap, and that kind of leads to a situation where you have unemployment as the perennial problem in India, but you also have a lot of unemployable talent. Especially now, I want to kind of direct or my inquiry to you is that in this modern era of AI, chat GPT, and maybe a lot of the way the technologies emerged over the last decade, lives are perennially or usually online only.
Yeah.
How is the world changing for senior level talent? What do they need to be ready with? Do you see that there is a certain degree of unemployability which is there, and does it play a role, at those levels at which you engage with your clients?
So, I mean, I keep hearing this hoo-ha on AI, and I think it's a brilliant tool. I love using ChatGPT. In fact, I have the paid subscription. It really helps with a number of things. I keep trying to make workout routines, which I never follow, as you can see, on ChatGPT as well. But that being said, one thing I'm super clear on is any pure transactional job which has no value add will get replaced by AI. Something like when you call, let's take an example of support, voice support. Till about 5 years ago, when you called somebody for voice support for, say, your phone is not working, whatever, you would immediately get to a person, and then you would tell the person, and usually you'll end up fighting with the person. The person would try and give you a solution, which would never ever work. But there would be that conversation you would directly have. Now, if you go to customer care, you have to go through these different steps where you are doing things on your own.
Yeah.
And the end is also sometimes a bot that is giving you these very irritating kind of standard answers to complicated questions, because
Yes.
unfortunately bot is well, I think somebody very interestingly said it's not artificial intelligence, it's unintelligent. So again, I don't agree. I think AI is brilliant. People don't hate me, but I think basic jobs like teleconferencing, basic jobs like putting calendars in order, those kind of basic secretarial jobs, those will get taken over by semi-intelligent AIs. And I think that's already started in the US. There are a couple of these secretarial tools which provide you the same service. They haven't really come into India yet because again we have cheaper labor available. But I see in time lot of those kind of jobs getting replaced by AI. There is a lot of I don't think there's a lot of unemployment. I mean, there is unemployment in India, but I think our main problem is not unemployment. Our main problem is disguised unemployment. We are not teaching the current generation the right skills for the jobs that are there in the market. There has been some change in the recent past, But that being said, for most practical parts, what they're teaching in something like a BCom is not necessarily what you need as an accountant. I mean, I've never seen a BCom, even a BCom honors student, enjoying his first couple of or her first couple of weeks as an accountant, because the practical application is very different from the education the person has received. So I think the disguised employment needs to be changed. Um, I think sometime back, and I'm sorry, this is going to sound semi-political, but I think sometime back there was this lovely initiative of teaching people on semi-technical skills outside of your construct of universities. There was this time when a lot of these engineering graduates came out, who then later became welders, plumbers, electricians, those kind of jobs. I don't know why we don't do that with something like a camera. I mean, I'm looking at three amazingly intelligent people in front of me right now. Imagine if there was like a structured education that they were taught on voice editing, or on camera holding, on angles. Wouldn't they be able to get a much higher pay than whatever is it that you're paying them right now?
Yeah.
I think we need to revisit the way we're educating ourselves and the way we're educating our workforce to be able to answer that. But that being said, I think that doesn't impact me as a firm a lot, because we work in this very unique space where there is that plethora of talent available. When there are specialists, when you need specialists, there are generalists when you need generalists. And it's a buyer's market in India. So, yeah.
Yeah, but so Rohan, you mentioned that you took the case study of a BCom graduate.
Yeah.
But I do want to understand that at my own experiences, just sharing my own
Yeah.
experiences, I realized that there's something called an AI notes taker, both in Zoom and in Google Meet, and it makes
is brilliant, by the
yeah,
way.
but but it takes a bit, and it took me a bit to kind of switch the feature on and to understand that every time that I am kind of setting up a meeting, there are some of these buttons, some of these toggles that
Yeah.
a few things that you need to toggle. When you
No,
talk
I'm
about
sorry to interrupt. I think it's still expensive though.
yeah,
I mean, if that were free, I would not waste my time taking notes during my interviews. I would record the whole thing.
yeah,
But I think AI still is coming. It's still a premium tool. It is still making sense when it's used for a premium output. I wish it would be like free access to like any interview tool is right now. Or sorry, any video calling tool is free. I don't understand why that AI can't be free.
yeah. I guess,
Sorry to
but
interrupt.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. But what I was coming to is, um, when senior level candidates come in and when you're talking to people,
Yeah.
is this becoming a signal of their employability, whether high or low? How easy do they find it to navigate with technology in terms of accepting calendar
Yeah.
invites? Because my last interaction with senior level candidates, we were still hiring secretaries for CXO level folks to accept. So the secchi would, so the main guy would have the big guy would have an email box,
Yeah.
and the secchi had a shadow email
Yeah.
box, and she would be or he would be the one accepting calendar invites and
And we'll
sending
set it up for
reminders.
okay, sir. Now you
Correct,
take over.
correct,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So let me start with giving you telling a story and then take it forward from there. This is when I was in Nigeria. We were interviewing somebody for the head of IT, the CTO role for the conglomerate. And what we were basically looking for is somebody who understands basic technology, has a sort of a wide view of technology, come to Nigeria, implement internal office IT, and slowly start working towards SAP implementation for the organization. So, I was doing the interviews, and then one of these head of ITs, when I was doing my pre-screening round, this gentleman told me that he is not used to setting up video calls himself, and he has his assistant to do it for him. And for me, that was the biggest red flag, and I immediately dropped the candidate then and there itself. Because if a head of IT doesn't know how to set up a basic video call via a Google Meet, then that person is not the right person for my organization in Nigeria, which is living in the dark ages when it comes to technology. But that being said, one of the amazing positive sides of COVID was everyone learned video call. Including our parents, your parents, every uncle and aunt of ours has a video call that they do for family birthday wishes and whatever. And I did too many of them, but I think everybody has become video call savvy.
Right.
What has also happened is I think we took video calls a little too seriously, where we were like, hey, listen, I can't have something coming in my background and whatever. I think we allow other people a lot more flexibility because, we all working from home, at least we were during lockdown. And every now and then a kid would pop in. Like one of my favorite ones is this gentleman is giving a very serious interview and his kid popped into the video. I think he was doing a UN conference of some sort. And a lot of those things happened. And I think we've become just more relaxed about doing video interviews. I think because people have done so many of it, people have also become confident.
Right.
And then right now, when I say let's do a video call, people don't say like they did about 5 years ago, why video call? People are now the question is, which tool do you want to use?
Right.
So I think that has people are
Right.
smart enough to get on video calls themselves now.
Awesome. Okay, coming to the last few inquiries that I have, and mostly about VNR and entrepreneurship So you could have carried on into a trailblazer of a career in corporate recruiting.
Well, I don't know how much trailblazer of a career that would have been, but okay.
Yeah,
point taken.
but what made you jump the ship and become an entrepreneur, other than the fact that there was a need?
Yeah.
But there must have been something bubbling inside, I'm sure. And
So the one is my absolute inability to say no to Vipul.
okay.
Because and not because of anything else, because I have absolute confidence in him. And if Vipul comes to me and says, hey Rohan, you know what? I think this is a great idea. It's always a great idea. That's one part of it. The second part is when we started the conversation, we realized that, and I mean, he obviously knew, I realized more than anything else that this is a brilliant opportunity to actually create something which will empower some of the most intelligent people in our country to do what they do best. And I love being a part of that, success story. A lot of people aspire to be the trailblazer, the first one there. I somehow get greater pleasure in being somebody who helped somebody being a trailblazer. And I think from that perspective, setting up VNR was perhaps the best idea. And some of the things we've done, the way we were able to work with people, help them be better at their work, we couldn't have thought of a better plan.
I guess. So what's the rush of blood for you these days? When you run VNR, one obviously is the intent to work with business houses and stuff like that. But there's always, I love being the ops guy. I love editing. I love doing this and then taking it back to the studio and then putting things together. What's it for you?
So there are two sides of it. I think every recruiter drives pleasure in seeing their candidates succeed. And for me, one of my greatest rushes ever in my life was when I was working with this company in Nigeria. I walked into one of the board meetings, and in a meeting of 22 people, other than the chairman, obviously, who owned the company, the 21 of them were hired by me.
Okay.
And they are the 22 people who are running this multi-million-dollar global enterprise. The force, the MDs, their number twos, the head of marketing, that whole team, the head of accounts, the head of audits, the head of finance, the entire governing board of the company was hired by me, and I was like on like the seventh cloud that day. that's one part of feeling super happy about life. The other one is uh, and it's very weird, but I get great pleasure when I indirectly hear we've done a great job. Like for example, somebody recently posted a need to hire an EA, and two of my clients immediately posted that hey, you know what, go to VNR, they're good at what they do, and over a period of about 8 hours, we had 11 requests
Wow.
that popped in. I think for me that was a great sense of pride and gratitude. Both because these extremely busy, important, way more important than me, people are giving me the opportunity to find people who would directly impact their babies, their organizations. And for me, that's what drives me on a daily basis. That's what makes me want to drive all the way to the end of Gurgaon for a meeting, or fly down to Chennai if required for a morning, evening, and kind of close a deal. Um, because it's that faith, and then being able to deliver on that faith is what I enjoy most.
And how about creating this extremely vibrant and inclusive culture at VNR? I know for sure that having met most of the team
Yeah.
members, or uh, uh, I think you have very serious and purposeful conversations with them. I've overheard some of them, but your banter with a few,
Yeah.
especially with Choma, is of legendary status. And so this being a boutique firm, and you mentioned that everyone here is working from home,
Yeah.
you're leveraging on technology to kind of. How does the organization function? What kind of a culture do you think you guys have been able to create here? And who could come and work with VNR?
So I feel anyone and everyone is welcome to come and work for VNR. I don't think recruitment needs super specialized skills. I think it's a lot of common sense with a lot of passion. And if you have both of these, you'll make a good recruiter. Um, so that's that bit of it. The culture in VNR is that of trust, is that of equity, is that of joy, is that of having faith in each other. I think a lot of times conflicts happen when a team member doesn't have confidence that the other team member or the manager has their best interest at mind. Luckily, we've been able to, and I love my team, we've been able to create this beautiful understanding amongst all of us where we all, when we say something, we know it comes from a place of wisdom, of when it comes from a place of positivity, and not from a point to sort of point out faults. Um, and 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 also the other difference is I enjoy my time as a recruiter also. So I'm not a pure manager. I have my own positions that I work on any point in time, which gives my team a lot of flexibility on um, how they structure themselves. And I'm very happy. I think this is something, and I'm sorry, it's going to sound super repetitive, but this is something Vipul told me a long time back, which is stuck to me. I think the manager's job is not to hold a team member's hand, but to be like this. You know, you allow space for your team member to work in a certain space where you are there as a support. Where you tell the person, hey, listen, you are now going off. Hey, now you're going off. Come back to the central path, and that is something that I like to do in VNR. That's the culture we have in VNR. We have absolute flexibility. The only two things which are rigid is one, you promise something you have to deliver, and two, we have a daily stand-up 10-minute sync that we do every morning to decide on what who will do and how.
Since it's a stand up, on a lighter note, I hope it has enough laughs. But towards the final couple of inquiries that I have for you, Rohan, we're moving into another decade or so,
Yeah.
a lot of these Gen Alpha would be ready for. One of the things that is always up my head is how am I preparing to work with Gen Alpha? What do I need to do to be, to be ready for Gen Alpha? What are your notes looking like?
So let's break it down into sort of two bits. One is the current generation in school and college, and actually the school generation, and then the second part, which is the generation which is in university and just come out. Um, the current generation that's there in school, I think, is a very amazing generation. I think they have the pulse on the overall country, economy, world. They definitely have a view on it all. It could be wrong, right? But then I think it's nice to have a view. It shows intellect. And then obviously over the years, as you learn more, your view becomes you views change, it gets corrected, and so on and so forth. The current generation that has come out, I think a lot of them are trapped into this glorified glass cubicle culture working environment. I think the again I'm going to blame the American television for some of it. Um, you know, I think everyone aspires to work for a company that gives them endless coffee and cigarette breaks. And this whole generation, well, let me not talk about the generation in general, but a lot of people that I've spoken to on the generation, they don't want to be a part of a success story. And the unfortunate reality of life is success comes from rolling up your sleeves, getting down to the trenches, getting dirty. Success doesn't come from sipping an expensive cup of cappuccino in Starbucks and ideating on Trump versus whoever else is going to be the president of a country which is 8,000 kilometers away. I think this generation, some people in this generation need to grow up, smell the lovely polluted air Delhi has, snap to reality, and be ready to get dirty. I mean, you work life balance and all these things are great, but you don't start your career with work life balance. I think um, you're doing disservice to yourself if you start your first job and decide that you will only work 8.5 hours for 5 days a week and not do more. I mean, I've been working for the last 25 odd years. I still work 7 days. I still work longer than any of my team members. Um, but then I like to. That's another conversation. I mean, that's a different point. But what I'm trying to say is when you're starting your career, it should be all about building something. I'm not saying don't take a break. I mean, great. Work hard. Work hard for a while. Take a week off. Go travel. Go do something nice. Come back and work hard again. Uh, don't take a loan and buy a new iPhone. It's stupid. Spend that lakh of rupees on traveling to a new country. Go see a new culture. Go see a new temple for if nothing else. I mean, there's so much to learn by talking to more people, by talking to more intelligent people. I think this is something that this young generation needs to do more of. They need to work a little harder, get a little bit more serious. And I think as parents, we need to stop giving trophies for participation. We're not doing any service to our kids by doing that. Life is hard. We don't need to be overly harsh on our kids, but we need to teach them the importance of hard work, the importance of success, and what comes with it.
I understand. And so, um November 2024 is also the month where we've celebrated the third anniversary of VNR. So, congratulations on
Thank you
that,
so
first of
much.
all. But on this third anniversary,
Yeah.
what are the thoughts and uh, what's the vision looking like for the next 5, 7, 10 years to come? What would VNR be? at a certain point of time in
Sure.
the future.
So, again, my vision for VNR is not to be the largest revenue earning organization. I'll be happy if we were, but that's not the end objective. Um, I've always believed money is a byproduct of a well thought target. And for me, a well thought target is in our context is being the top of mind recall for the family owned businesses for any people related issues. I want to be the preeminent people problem solver for every family owned business in India. And once I get to that status, I'll be like, hey, great, I've achieved something.
Right. And on that note, Godspeed to that vision. And thank you so much, Rohan,
Thank you so
for
much.
this lovely chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.